Hi, I'm Janine Turner, founder of Constituting America. I and Kathy Gillespie, Constituting America's CEO, welcome you to our 13th annual 90-day study. 90 plus 90 equals 180. History holds the key to the future. We would like to thank Amanda Hughes for orchestrating these studies. This year's study is Constituting America's 13th study, and we are studying the first principles of the American founding. Essay 6, Classical History and Governing Devoted to Freedom and Independence Through Restraining Power of Elected Representatives. Guest essayist, Winfield Rose. Other impacts of the Protestant Reformation derive directly from the teachings of John Calvin, 1509 through 1564. A Frenchman by birth who spent most of his life in Geneva, Switzerland. The distinguished characteristic of Calvinist Protestantism, as presented in his Institutes of the Christian Religion, 1535, is the doctrine of predestination, meaning that God has predestined or foreordained some people, called the elect, for salvation and others for damnation. This is part of eternal law, and as such, there's nothing anyone can do about it. It is an unchangeable decision made by God, not a matter of the potential believer's free will. Knowing if one is among the elect is a problem, however. The psychological insecurity this caused was severe. The German sociologist Max Weber, 1864 through 1920, published The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism in 1905. Written as a response to Karl Marx's theory of economic determinism, Weber wanted to show that history could have a prime mover other than economics, namely religion, and argued that Calvinists searched for certainty of salvation in a God-given calling, a job or a career, unceasing hard work, and the suppression of physical pleasure. In other words, one could know one was among the elect by working hard and saving and investing, rather than spending one's money and enjoying oneself. This has come to be known as the Protestant or Puritan work ethic. The argument continues that the Puritans brought this work ethic with them to North America and that it permeated the entire culture. Professor Davis calls the Protestant or Puritan ethic, quote, the beginning of the American dream, quote, saying, quote, political, social, and economic life in the late 20th century bears scant resemblance to the Puritan way. Yet the religious doctrine of the Puritans had a profound influence on a central characteristic of our tradition, the American dream. For modern Americans, that dream is typically one that involves success measured in terms of material wealth. To all appearances, that dream of success has no connection with the religious views, values, and aspirations of the Puritans. It is possible, nevertheless, to uncover the seeds of the modern individual's pursuit of private wealth in the 17th century Puritans' quest for salvation, end quote. Puritans on both sides of the Atlantic embraced the ideas of the covenant or social contract, government based on consent of the governed, natural rights, and resistance to unjust authority, which itself was a natural right. Before they disembarked from the Mayflower in 1620, the Pilgrims wrote and signed the Mayflower Compact, thereby creating the first written social contract in history. It was first published in London in 1622 and reads as follows in modern English, quote, in the name of God, amen. We whose names are underwritten, the loyal subjects of our dread sovereign Lord, King James, by the grace of God of England, France, and Ireland, King, Defender of the Faith, etc., having undertaken for the glory of God and advancement of the Christian faith and the honor of our king and country, a voyage to plant the first colony in the northern parts of Virginia, do by these presents solemnly and mutually in the presence of God and one of another, covenant and combine ourselves together into a civil body politic for our better ordering and preservation and furtherance of the ends aforesaid, and by virtue hereof to enact, constitute, and frame with just and equal laws, ordinances, acts, constitutions, and offices from time to time, as shall be thought most meet and convenient for the general good of the colony, and to which we promise all due submission and obeyance. In witness whereof we have hereunto subscribed our names at Cape Cod, the 11th of November, in the reign of our sovereign Lord, King James of England, France, and Ireland, the 18th, and of Scotland, the 54th, Anno Domini 1620. End quote. 21 years later, our Puritan forefathers saw the need for a delineation of rights and adopted the Massachusetts Body of Liberties in 1641. This, quote, was the first attempt in the colonies to restrain the power of the elected representatives by appealing to a fundamental document that lists the rights and duties of the people. The document combined the early American covenanting tradition of the Mayflower Compact with an appeal to the common law tradition that crossed the Atlantic from Britain. The Massachusetts Body of Liberties contains 98 sections. The most enduring part is the preamble and the first 17 sections. The preamble reads as follows: the free fruition of such liberties, immunities, and privileges as humanity, civility, and Christianity call for, as due to every man in his place and proportion without impeachment and infringements, hath ever been and ever will be the tranquility and stability of churches and commonwealths, and the denial or deprival thereof, the disturbance, if not the ruin, of both. We hold it therefore our duty and safety, whilst we are about the further establishing of this government, to collect and express all such freedoms as for present we foresee may concern us and our posterity after us, and to ratify them with our solemn consent. We do therefore this day religiously and unanimously decree and confirm these following rights, liberties, and privileges concerning our churches and civil state to be respectively, impartially, and inviolably enjoyed and observed throughout our jurisdiction forever. End quote. Space limitations preclude including the 17 sections here, but they can be accessed at teachingamericanhistory.org, document the Massachusetts Body of Liberties. It is interesting to see how these ideas made their way back across the Atlantic to England. In 1644, a Scottish Presbyterian by the name of Samuel Weatherford published a book in London titled Lex Rex, which contained all these ideas. The Puritan Revolution, or English Civil War, led by Cromwell, lasted from 1640 to 1649 and gave birth to Thomas Hobbes' Leviathan, first published in 1651, which was based on the natural right to life and created a powerful state whose legitimacy derived from the consent of the governed to protect it. This was followed by John Locke's 2 treatises of government, which were published in 1689 at the time of the Glorious Revolution and the English Bill of Rights. Locke proposed that government emerges from the consent of the governed to protect the natural rights of life, liberty, and property. These ideas were picked up by the authors and signers of the Declaration of Independence in 1776. Quote, "The American Revolution might thus be said to have started, in a sense, when Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses to the church door in Wittenberg. It received a substantial part of its theological and philosophical underpinnings from John Calvin's Institutes of the Christian Religion, and much of its social theory from the Puritan Revolution of 1640 through 1660, and, perhaps less obviously, from the Glorious Revolution of 1689. Put another way, the American Revolution is inconceivably in the absence of the context of ideas which have constituted Christianity. The leaders of the revolution in every colony were imbued with the precepts of the Reformed faith. Let's state those important words again. Quote, "The American Revolution is inconceivable in the absence of the context of ideas which have constituted Christianity. The leaders of the revolution in every colony were imbued with the precepts of the Reformed faith." End quote. Winfield H. Rose, Ph.D., is Distinguished Professor of Political Science Emeritus at Murray State University. Thanks for joining us. Please tell everyone about this wonderful study that we have, a new essay every day, and up to 90 days on American principles. And please check out last year's study, which is about American exceptionalism defined. People say we're exceptional, but in last year's study, we set out to prove why. Have a wonderful day.